Scalpel. Thank you. Hope I get this right. I haven't slept in days. Oh no! Oh no!
I heard you can throw the football really well, Commish.
I can throw the football just as well as I like my rubs. Watch this. What? Objection, Your Honor. He's badgering the witness.
Sustained.
All right, so just finish off this next line of billion lines of code, and I'll have those guys betting all their money. There's no way they're gonna win at fantasy anymore. All this, betting. Anyways, I'm gonna call my bro. I gotta see what's happening. Hello? Hey bro, what's poppin'? Dak still making you wet dream? Baby, it's all good, bro. Oh, I got mustard on my favorite shirt. You know what, bro? I don't even know who to set up all this week in my lineup. Well, if you go this linebacker from Washington, they're paying a run-first offense, so that linebacker is guaranteed to get a bunch of volume, and that's how you will win this one. You the best, man. How the hell do you know all this? You see any women around, bro? Good point, my brother. Good point. You know what? Thanks for all you did for this. There's no way I could ever win without you. I know this.
Hey everyone, guess who's back? It's Commish, back here with another draft preview as we get into the back half of our previews here in the final 10 teams, which only means we're getting close to the real draft, folks. So I hope you're all getting excited, and I'm sure my brother Brian is pretty excited this year about his scenario. It's obviously been a number of years since you've won the title, Brian. You won the title in the second year of our existence, so it's been over 10 years, and I'm sure you'd love to get back into championship form. You've had a couple of decent finishes here in recent history. I think you finished third a couple of years back. So anyways, let's just hop into your preview and see how you got here. Of course, when we get into a scenario like this one, we've seen it before, right, folks? The dreaded picks curse. And, we'll have to see if you can find a way to avoid the dreaded picks curse. I've been doing a lot of thinking on the picks curse, and here's why it happens, right? So when we get into your draft picks, you still have to round out your defense, right? So, you might have rounded out your offense already, but there's still gonna be good receivers available for those other teams that are picking later than you filling your offense. And literally, those guys might even still get more points than the guys you picked early on. So, that's how the pick curse actually happens. I think, if anything, what having a loaded draft pick scenario can do for you is solidify your IDPs, right? Because the reality is people aren't going to be picking IDPs early if they just have a regular draft, right? And that's where you can, really round out and get the best IDPs there are in the league, which obviously could obviously lead to a winning record. So looking at your keepers, you do have a couple of running backs, right? So you got Josh Jacobs, who is the bell cow, I feel, in Green Bay still. I know they got Marshawn Lloyd there, and there's been a lot of chatter of Lloyd getting some carries, but I think Josh Jacobs really is a true bell cow running back. Left the Raiders, right? Because he had an amazing season. Raiders didn't want to pay him, and I can't blame the guy for going. So Josh Jacobs is there, and then you also have Kenneth Walker off your favorite team, Seattle. Obviously, it makes a lot of sense for you to have Kenneth Walker since he's on your favorite team. Makes Sundays a little bit easier to watch. And the benefit for you is it is a bit of a running back draft this year, which we'll talk about a bit in your storylines. So, even if Kenneth Walker and his injury problems becomes a concern, you should be able to load up on at least a great running back at pick one. Looking at your wide receivers, you got Romeo and Dunze entering year two, along with Caleb Williams entering year two. No Keenan Allen there this year, so you got to think it will open up more targets for Ndunze. Not sure about the connection with DJ Moore and Caleb Williams as well, so there could be even a path there for WR1 numbers for Ndunze. And then you also have WR1 Jerry Jeudy, but on a pretty awful team, right, with Cleveland. I do slate Cleveland as being the worst team in the NFL this year. If you look at their roster, worst quarterback scenario, worst wide receiver scenario, to be honest. Rookie running backs coming in unproven. So probably the only good thing that Cleveland's got going for them is their tight ends, with Njoku and the rookie fan in there. And then Chris Godwin, I think, carries a little bit of risk as well because he had the injury last year. So we'll have to see how he comes back. The risk also comes in the fact that there's the rookie Agbuka that was drafted, as well as ascending Jalen McMillan, which might cut into some of Godwin's targets for sure. And then at linebacker, you got Mr. Reliable Fred Warner. One of the best IDPs you could probably have. I think Fred Warner is, he's just a guy he's a baller, let's face it. So anytime you can have a guy like him on the back end of your D, or in the middle, I should say, he's going to be getting some points for you for sure. Looking at the pick scenario, so this is where, the picks curse could happen, or you're going to have an unbelievable year. You have 20 picks in the first 10 rounds, and I don't think I've ever seen in our 12-year history someone have 1-2. Maybe somebody has before, I don't know, I don't care. But you do have 1-2. The thing you have to be cautious of, and I was kind of running a few mocks, and I like to run the first couple of rounds for myself to kind of determine who I think people are going to pick, just so obviously I can figure out who I'm going to pick as well. And if you go 1-2, we'll get into it with your storylines here or your projected pick, but 1-2, because it's a running back draft, like literally you could get two running backs to solidify your running back core for maybe the next 10 years if the two guys pan out, right? So that's a huge benefit or potential for you this year at 1-2. The problem is you don't have a quarterback at keeper, and your next pick isn't until pick 39. Well, as you saw in the chat, 7 teams need quarterbacks, and I have a feeling that probably 3, 4, maybe 5 quarterbacks will be off the board by the time you pick at pick 39. And don't get me wrong, you can still probably get a reliable quarterback there, but there's one thing that I'll say about this league is you can't win without a quarterback, right? We've seen it in the past. Teams have had good teams. Susie was an example last year. She didn't have a quarterback, right? And you and I talked about it too all year about how Susie wasn't going to win because she didn't have a quarterback, and that was the truth. Looking at the first rounds 1 to 10, you own round 8. You have 5 picks in round 8, and you actually pick 3 times in a row. So you can, we've heard of the double dip strategy. You can do the triple dip strategy there, which will be kind of interesting to see what direction you go into. As we get into your middle rounds, because you had 20 and 10, you have 8 picks here, and they're all in the early rounds 11 to 14. Quite an unbelievable draft pick scenario that you're in. And I think it really does set up the table for you to be successful. Again, the only thing that I'll say is some people are probably still picking quality offensive players here in round 11, and you're probably just rounding out your bench. So, something to think about, right? That is just the reality of it all when you have all these early round picks. And then you have just made a trade recently for Jerry Jeudy, so that also puts you into round 24. So, I guess you could probably go to sleep for a while after round 14 and then just log in again in round 24 and pick your kicker. I mean, who are you picking in round 24? It'll be interesting to see. Maybe you already round out your kicker earlier, but who knows? And then here we are here, likely first pick. Well, I think it's pretty clear, right? The first pick's going to be a running back. It's going to be Ashton Gianti. I don't think there's any surprise here. I think really where the draft starts is at pick 2. And you have the potential to go Gianti and Hampton, right? Obviously, Marion Hampton is the other guy that most people are saying is 1-2, right? So can you imagine having Gianti or Hampton, or even maybe you go the other way and you go with who was the highest touted prospect heading into the draft, and that's Travis Hunter, right? So you have an opportunity to get Ashton Gianti as well as Travis Hunter. It's funny because I've been on people about picking Travis Hunter. I was on Vlad and Klenji for picking Hunter at 3. But, now that I think about it, would the Jags trade all that draft capital for a guy that's just going to play corner? I don't think so, right? So obviously Travis Hunter, I think, could put up some big numbers if he does play both positional groups. And if that's the case and you get Gianti and Hunter, wow, what a combo that would be to have as rookies, right? Be pretty unbelievable. Looking at your storylines, yeah, I do think you have a chance to win this year. I think you can't ignore the draft pick scenario you're in. You likely have the best draft pick scenario. There are other teams that do have a number of draft picks, and we'll be previewing them here later this month as we get into really out of the more survival-like teams and more into the contender-like teams in some of the previews here in the back half. I will say you have a tough division. One of those teams that has a fair amount of draft picks is myself. I think Age Crew has a decent draft pick scenario. I think BC Lions, you should be able to handle them. And then obviously Susie's going to be easy too, but there are the 2 teams there. So it's a 3-horse race, right? Just like it was with the Maple Leaf. We previewed Danny yesterday and talked about the 3-horse race there. And I think it's a 3-horse race in the red and white as well. And then the other storyline is it's a running back draft, right? So this is your opportunity to double up on a guy like Gianti, a Marion Hampton. Maybe you go some other running back, who knows? But obviously Gianti is going to be number 1. And obviously running backs are at a premium. And I'm going to say this. I was looking at next year's draft, right? And a running back and wide receiver crop. Not that great, right? It's a quarterback draft next year. So this is an excellent year, I feel, for you to get picks 1 and 2. And it's up to you to take advantage. So should be a good year for you, Brian. I just want to say I obviously love having you in the league. I've always considered that I have a fair amount of rivals in this league, but always consider you to be my biggest rival. And I'm glad you're in my division. I know you hate it because we have to play each other, and I always find that we do pretty decent, I feel, in fantasy, with the exception of me last year, I guess. But it does create a great competition, and I really do look forward to those games against you. So it's going to be a good year for us this year. I feel it's going to be a great competition, and just good luck. And number 2 pick is going to be a big one.